Mr. Adams, in 1991, you pleaded guilty to 2 counts of withholding information from Congress regarding your involvement in the Iran-Contra affair, for which you were later pardoned by President George H.W. Bush. I fail to understand why members of this committee or the American people should find any testimony that you give today to be truthful.
If I can respond to that.
It wasn't a question.
On February,
that was not a question. That was I reserve the right to my time.
It is not right.
That was not a question.
Committee can attack
on February 8th,
who is not permitted to reply.
That was not a question. Thank you.
What you're about to see is one of the most disgusting displays of political theater I've witnessed in Congress. Elliott Abrams, a man who has dedicated his entire life to serving this country under multiple Republican administrations, sat down to testify about our current policy toward Venezuela. And instead of having a serious conversation about how to help millions of people suffering under socialist tyranny, Ilhan Omar decided to put on a show trial.
The right to my time.
It is not right.
That was not a question.
Committee can attack
on February 8th,
who is not permitted to reply.
That was not a question. Thank you for your participation. On February 8th, 1982, you testified before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee about U.S. policy in El Salvador. In that hearing, you dismissed as communist propaganda report about the massacre of El Mozote, in which more than 800 civilians, including children as young as 2 years old, were brutally murdered by U.S.-trained troops. During that massacre, some of those troops bragged about raping a 12-year-old girl before they killed them. Girls before they killed them. You later said that the U.S. policy in El Salvador was a fabulous achievement. Yes or no, do you still think so?
From the day that President Duarte was elected in a free election to this day, El Salvador has been a democracy. That's a fabulous achievement.
Yes or no, do you think that massacre was a fabulous achievement that happened under our watch?
That is a ridiculous question, and I
yes or no?
No.
I will take that as a yes.
I am not going to respond to that kind of personal attack, which is not a question.
Yes or no, would you support an armed faction within Venezuela that engages in war crimes, crimes against humanity or genocide, if you believe they were serving U.S. interest, as you did in Guatemala, El Salvador, and Nicaragua?
I am not going to respond to that question. I'm sorry. I don't think this entire line of questioning is meant to be real questions, and so I will not reply.
Whether under your watch, a genocide will take place, and you will look the other way because American interests were being upheld, is a fair question. Because the American people want to know that anytime we engage a country, that we think about what our actions could be and how we believe our values are being furthered. That is my question. Will you make sure that human rights are not violated and that we uphold international and human rights?
I suppose there is a question in there, and the answer is that the entire thrust of American policy in Venezuela is to support the Venezuelan people's effort to restore democracy to their country. That's our policy.
I don't think anybody disputes that. The question I had for you is that does the interest of the United States include protecting human rights and include protecting people against genocide?
That is always the position of the United States.
Thank you. I yield back my time.
Omar immediately attacks Abrams over Iran-Contra from 1991. He was pardoned by President Bush over 3 decades ago. Case closed. But Omar doesn't care because this was never about answers. This was about a viral moment for her socialist base. Let's talk about what Iran-Contra actually was. The Soviet Union was spreading communism throughout Central America. The Reagan administration supported anti-communist forces to prevent Soviet expansion in our hemisphere. The alternative was communist dictatorships 90 miles from our shores. Then Omar brings up El Mozote in El Salvador. Here's the context she ignores. El Salvador was fighting Marxist guerrillas backed by Cuba and the Soviets. America supported the government because if El Salvador fell, Central America could follow. Was intelligence perfect during war? No. But there was real communist propaganda designed to turn Americans against our own policy. Abrams responds perfectly. Since President Duarte was elected, El Salvador has been a democracy. That is a fabulous achievement. He's right. El Salvador didn't become Cuba. Millions live in freedom because we prevented communist takeover. Omar asks if Abrams would support factions committing war crimes if they serve U.S. interests. This is a loaded question designed to make any answer look bad. Abrams refuses to play her game, and I respect that completely. Here's the truth the far left cannot accept. American foreign policy must prioritize American interests and security. During the Cold War, that meant opposing Soviet expansion. Were all our allies perfect? No, but the alternative was letting the Soviets win, meaning more oppression and death for hundreds of millions. When asked about human rights, Abrams nails it. American policy in Venezuela supports the Venezuelan people's effort to restore democracy. That's exactly right. Maduro's regime is a nightmare. People are starving, millions fled, and the regime tortures prisoners. Supporting democratic forces isn't violating rights, it's defending them. This hearing wasn't about Venezuela. It was about Omar grandstanding for her base that thinks America is always the bad guy. It was about relitigating the Cold War and pretending our victory was shameful. This mentality would have let the Soviets win. Elliott Abrams spent decades protecting American interests and advancing freedom. He understands that defending freedom sometimes requires tough choices. The fact that he has to be lectured by someone who consistently sides with America's enemies is insulting. If you appreciate this breakdown, subscribe and hit that bell. The mainstream media won't give you this context. They'll run Omar's sound bites and make Abrams the villain. American power is not something to apologize for. Our Cold War victory saved billions from communist tyranny. Men like Elliott Abrams deserve our gratitude, not show trials from radicals who hate this country. Thanks for watching, Patriots. Share this video. The truth needs to be heard.